But it was, again, this crazy sense of clarity that I've told people now when they've asked me about the walk, I say, if I can get that level of clarity back, which actually is still with me, I have found my ADD has been super turned down since we've done this event, Matt. Probably do it monthly if I can get that level of clarity back. Super powerful. Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. Garrett Fry here with my friend Matt Benelli, and we are excited because Matt and I just got done with a journey. We literally just went on a journey, totally separate from each other, opposite sides of the planet, almost, and close. And we did the 12-hour walk. Matt brought this book by Colin O'Brady to our attention inside of our community, the 11 Circle, and we started going through this journey, Matt, and you said, I think we should actually do the 12-hour walk. And I was like, I'm on board with you. I'll do this. And dude, this was amazing. For me, it was absolutely incredible. And I'm excited to talk about our journey today. I'm excited to share with everybody out there who's going, what in the world is a 12-hour walk? And why would you ever want to do that? Because I know you're out there listening.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a inspirational episode for sure, because we hope to inspire you to potentially take on this journey if it's something that you're interested in. It's funny, I had somebody ask me, like, what is, I don't get it. What's the 12-hour walk? And I said, it's exactly that. You walk for 12 hours. And they're like, oh, okay. And so I would recommend that people read this book before. Well, you don't even have to read the book before you do it. But what I like about the book is it's not about the 12-hour walk. It's about limiting beliefs. And that is one of the things that I think that people are going to experience and think about when they go on this 12-hour walk, is they're going to just have experiences with different limiting beliefs. Even making the decision to do it is managing limiting beliefs, Garrett.
We've already seen it now. We've come back from doing this. And when we were getting ready to go do it, we had a group of people that were like, oh, this is so cool. I had people that are like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it with you guys on that day. And then all of a sudden you'll get a text like, well,
I got this.
Yeah, I've got some things going on. And so I think I'm going to pass on this one, but like, I'll do it down the road. And it's easy to sit there and say, what did I commit to? What did I do? I mean, I was teaching all the beginning of that week while I was teaching. I was traveling and teaching. And then I came home and I had the craziest day of coaching I have had in Friday. I think I had 7 hours worth of one-on-one coaching calls. And I was looking at that week going, what in the world did I plan out here? I literally put this in one of those most stressful, just constantly moving weeks. And I'm going to end it with doing a 12-hour walk. And did I pick the right week? Like, maybe I shouldn't. And then I was like, dude, it's on. This is the way it's going to happen. It was also interesting, Matt, to hear people's understanding of it, of like, oh man, so it's like a physical challenge to walk for 12 hours. And I was like, well, it's actually not, because you can sit down every 100 yards if you want to for 45 minutes and then get up and walk 100 yards and sit down and just take in your environment for 45 minutes, which at that point in time, it's not a physical journey at all.
No.
It's interesting to see where people came from with this.
It is. And I think one thing, and we'll get into some of our takeaways from this, but one thing about this too is perception of time. I've noticed that a lot of people look at 12 hours. That's a long time, right? Because we don't think in chunks like that. We typically think in 1, 2, 3 hour, those are the larger chunks. Like, oh gosh, I have to sit through a full movie without checking my phone. That's a long time. And I think particularly in today's day where we are so tied to a connection device, it seems like a lot. Because I was thinking about like, gosh, if I had encountered this, now granted, I would have been a lot younger, but like back before I had a cell phone, like I probably wouldn't really thought much about being disconnected for 12 hours, right?
Yep.
Because like when you would, like now when you text somebody, you're like, are they going to reply back? Are they going to reply back? Whereas like back in the day, I go knock on my friend's house. I'm like, hey, is Garrett home? No, he's not home. Like, okay. Like I would have no idea when I'm going to see Garrett again, right? Like he wasn't home. Okay.
Walked a mile over to my house to be like, hey, is Garrett here? And he's like, no, he's not. You're like, all right.
Like, all right, just go back home, right? Ride my bike without music, without an audiobook or whatever it is. And so I think it's interesting this walk being in our world today.
Yeah.
And Colin O'Brady kind of thought about this and kind of wrote this book and would develop this through COVID when one of his adventures was basically canceled due to that pandemic. And it is a very modern thing, kind of going on this journey. But there is also something about moving. It's funny, the day before the 12-hour walk, I saw a post by Jim Quick that had a side-by-side of brain activity and said, here's your brain after sitting for an hour. Here's your brain after walking for an hour. And I was like, man, mine's going to be on fire because I'm walking for 12 hours.
Yeah. Well, in that, you talk about that removal, Matt, of like that connection out there. And we all know, you mentioned text, but like, you all know what you do when you make a post on Facebook or a post on Instagram or a post on, YouTube or things like this. And we so quickly want to come back and get that dopamine hit of like, did anybody look at it? Like, what did we get any comments on it? Did anybody like it? And we're constantly checking back in on this stuff all the time. And I think one of my biggest takeaways out of this journey was that removal of that clutter out of my life for 12 hours.
Yeah.
It wasn't forever. And I think having that, knowing it's just for 12 hours, which is a long time, but it's like, it'll all be there. It's not going anywhere. I can check on it later, but not being bombarded by all these things that I can't control. Cause it's not like you just go jump on Facebook and you're looking at that one post that you posted. You're looking at other people's posts, you're looking at news events, you're looking at floods that are happening, you're looking at tornadoes that are happening, you're looking at all these things that come in to maybe even the new bill that our governor signed. And you're going like, well, okay, all this stuff is just coming in all the time. And that was a huge takeaway for me of just being able to be by myself, which we don't get very much time during a normal day, a full day, just to be by ourselves.
Well, and we don't choose to take that time. And I think this is why I would definitely encourage our audience in particular, because most of you are real estate agents. And if I asked you to just turn off your phone for 3 hours, you'd probably freak out. And unless you're like, well, I'm going into a listing appointment. Well, you can turn it off then, right? But we get so worried about being right on top of things. And this is why I think getting away can help give you a different perspective on what really happens with everybody else when we're not trying to be there for everybody else. And we're just taking the time to be there for ourselves, because we ask people all the time, Garrett, can you give yourself 1 hour for business development each day? 1 hour of making calls and connecting with your people, sending texts, making sure your marketing is on point, 1 hour a day. And some people struggle with it. And so then you give them the idea of being completely unconnected for 12 hours. And some people like go crazy. And some people are like, oh, cool, I can go do that. But then they come right back to like, I'm available every second of every day.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool thing for me of recognizing that, like, gosh, we can be disconnected and the world's going to be fine. In fact, you're going to experience parts of the world that are going to be incredible, which is going to give you the ability to serve your people at a much higher level after you take that mental break, because we need to give our brains, I think, Garrett, a good reset. This was one thing I got out of it. And maybe we break it down into first half and second half, because our halves of the walk were completely different, which is really cool. But just giving yourself a space and time to just reset your brain, whether there's new things that come in or it's the old things, but you just give it space. I think it just reframes how we show up the next day.
And I would say, as anybody who's listening to this, anybody in the audience right now who's taking this in, I think a really important thing is that Matt and I did this journey at exactly the same day, almost the same time. We were both out walking.
We overlapped. Good. Well, we're in different time zones, so we couldn't be at the same time. Garrett would have had to start at like 1 a.m.
But we had very different journeys.
Yeah.
We had a lot of very similar kind of takeaways, but the journeys were very, very, very different. And I want to encourage anybody who's thinking about doing this, don't listen to this and go, oh, if I go do this, I'm going to get what Garrett got out of this, or I'm going to get what Matt got out of this. What I would encourage you to do is if you want to take this journey and you want to do this, be ready for your own experience. Be ready for this, whatever you're going to get out of it. I went into it with very, very, very little expectations. I went into it literally going like, I'm going for a walk for 12 hours. Like, and I had an idea of a direction I was walking in. I knew that Shasta Dam would be an awesome thing to be able to stand at and take a picture out, or at least take take a moment there. That was 6 hours out, 6 hours back. Would have been a 12-hour walk. Every bit of me was like, just get over that direction. And I got to a place of like, okay, that's far enough. I think I'm good. It's probably going to take me 5 hours to get out. My body's getting sore. Who knows how long it's going to take me to get home? But zero expectations is how I went into that. And I would encourage all of you to go into it with, very much an open mind and like, let's just see where this goes, see what happens, but let's just start making a journey. Cause that's for me, what I got was really powerful, was my brain going down areas that I was not expecting at all.
Well, let's start with that. And I think, Garrett, you had a unique experience, at least from my perspective, because we have two very different brains, which is, I think, why we blend well together. And I think this is actually going to relate, because there are people, whether you self-diagnose or you have been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. As many of you know, Garrett has been diagnosed with those things. And your first 6 hours of this walk set up a really awesome second half of the walk. But share like your experience once you got out there, what your brain started to do and how you let it run.
Let me just kind of build a little background for ADD here for a second, because it's not like as an adult I went and got tested. They're like, oh yeah, you have ADD. Like, let's get you signed up on, like, that wasn't it. After getting kicked out of elementary school, after barely making my way through junior high, after being asked to leave my high school and go to a different high school, like, I have been tested so many times in so many ways for why does my brain work the way that it works. And yes, at a very young age, I was diagnosed many times with, yeah, you are ADD 100%. This is where it became, we had a very interesting journey, different journey for Matt and I. And it was funny, we got back from our walk, and Matt and I really didn't share anything right up front. We wanted to share with our community first. And all Matt said was, I was amazed how fast my brain shut off. And I was like, you jerk. Like, what are you talking about? Your brain shut off. Because for like the first 3 to 4 hours, I was in major processing mode. And it was really interesting, Matt, because I didn't go into it going, I want to solve this problem. I want to think about this. I want to solve this problem. It was just like my brain would run in this direction. And I'd be like, well, this is really interesting. And I would pull out, I had a camera that I carried with me. I carried this little guy with me. If anybody's watching on YouTube, a little teeny camera. And I would face it in front of me, and I would just download whatever my brain was thinking about at that moment in time. And going back and looking over all my notes, it was like just like throwing mud all over the room. Like, it was like, now we're focusing on this. Now we're focusing on that. Now we're going to run over here. And it was like 10 minutes apart. Now we're going down this route. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to build the business over here. Now we're going to talk about what kind of car we want to get. Now we're going to talk about how, our relationship with our kids. And now it was crazy. And I have documented pages of notes, and I couldn't get my brain to shut off, but I wasn't looking for it. And I think that was a really interesting thing, is that I wasn't going, when is my brain going to be quiet? I was actually so intrigued with the moment, Matt, of like, this is so cool. Like, I have all these thoughts and I'm getting them down and be able to come back to them later. And isn't this just a fascinating journey? And I was prepared for 12 hours of that. That's what I was starting to kind of get in my mind of like, oh, this is what's going to happen for 12 hours. Like, let's do this. You had a different start.
When I started, I had written down a lot of things that I wanted to think about and go through and analyze. And now I did start in the pitch black of the very early morning. And so maybe that impacted some of my focus. Had some really good experiences in the first half, looking up at like the incredible vastness of our universe and the stars and stuff as I was out on the beach. So there was no light, artificial light, hindering what I was looking at. But I was like, when is my brain going to turn on? Like, I want to solve some problems here. There are things that I want to like think about and go through and like, when is this actually going to light up? Am I going to finish this whole walk without any new thoughts? Is kind of how I went into it, which is so funny. At some point, my brain did turn on, by the way.
Yeah.
But I also, in reflection, was able to enjoy the beauty of those moments of just not really thinking about anything and just enjoying our environment, our surroundings. And we both had pretty nice days. You had some smoke going on in your walk, but we both had
We had a moment.
sunny, good days, good temperature. And I was able to enjoy this incredible sunrise. And I will say even just if I could have those, if I even just took that first bit and redid that, even though I didn't think of anything, like these are those little moments that we don't think we need that I did need. I just needed moment of silence, not thinking about everything, because when I am going through my days, I am constantly forcing myself to solve problems, think of new ways to do things. How do I innovate this? How do I innovate that? How do I help this person solve this problem? What's a solution that can be thrown out here? And that's just the nature of how I operate in kind of my business world, right? How can I challenge myself?
So this is one of the thoughts that was coming up for me is so like, you spend a lot of your time trying to come up with solutions and come up with stuff, right? Like I spend the majority of my day trying to find some quiet inside the brain. Like there's a reason, like we joke about my music that I listen to, and I always have music going. It's always cranked up. It's as loud as it can go. I'm surprised the stereo in my car is actually okay, because like that is my thing, but it's the only way I can shut my brain off. Like getting into a song and repeating that song over and over again and singing as loud as I can and getting into the beat of it allows my brain to go, oh, we're only going to focus on this right now. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to focus on this right now. And so this goes back to like, we're all very different people. And it was fun, Matt, to kind of go through this with you at the end and go like, wow, it's amazing how we fell into this differently, because I was like letting my brain run, your brain was like finding peace. And usually I'm not trying to do that. Usually I'm not trying to let it run because it's overwhelming. It causes me stress. It can get scary at some points in time. And I think that's what a lot of people with ADD deal with a lot. But it was funny, Matt, as I was able to document it and get it down, this is where this journey started to happen for me. Is all of a sudden I found my brain started going, oh, we dealt with that. And oh, we dealt with that. And that's good. We recorded it. We know we figured it out. Now, okay, let's handle this one. And it took about, 6 hours for my brain to really go, and now we're just going to be quiet. And it was wild. It was wild.
But that's awesome that you gave it that time and space to do that, right? You said to me, like, you hadn't experienced that quiet in like 40 years.
I can't even remember. I used 40 years because I'm 46. Like, I just kind of went like, I'm going to throw 40 years at it because I've never had my brain just be quiet.
Like, and that is worth it alone, right? Just to get to that space. And the opposite for me of, once I crossed 6 hours, I kind of was like, all right, brain, come on, let's get to work here. We got like, I want to do something. And that's when I just started talking into my phone, pulled out my voice recorder and just started, phone was in airplane mode, and just started talking and just putting thoughts down. And I didn't even think about how I was going to evaluate those. But then you and I had chatted before this about using Otter AI or I'm sure there's other tools that you can use. And so now I'm throwing these voice recordings into Otter AI that are summarizing it for me, showing me like, here's the key points. Speaker one says this. And I was like, well, that's me. and it's really fun to just be able to, for me, I'd say from hour 6 to, about 10, because the last 2 hours for me were kind of like, I just want to finish at this point and just enjoy the last 2 hours. But it was filled with just dumping things out of my brain from, business stuff like, hey, here's how I want to structure this, thinking about our upcoming GPS business planning sessions that we're going to do. What are some ideas that I have for that can add value, how we can structure this so it makes sense, all the way to how do I want to be a better dad? And what's my relationship with God look like? And how long can I go and spend in the ocean right now? And like those are the things that I was able to think about, get down in voice form, which now I can go back and look at in a summarized fashion, which is really cool. But taking those first 6 hours was worth it to get to that space. And that that second half, particularly 8, 9, and 10 for me, Garrett, was when I was also starting to experience a lot of joy and happiness because I was just working through certain things. And you experienced some similar joy. And I talked to another person who did the 12-hour walk. He said he didn't get much out of it, but he did have a lot of fun. There was a good level of joy and happiness. And I was like, even if that's what you get out of it, just being happier at the end of 12 hours, that's totally worth it. And what a fun thing to do to then get to a elongated happiness state.
Yeah. And now, what I found, I think what allowed kind of like that final thing that allowed my brain to kind of settle. I had this moment that I was like, all of a sudden found myself pouring back through all the memories of my life. And what I was kept thinking about is like, what led me to this place on this trail right now in this canyon, in this town of Redding, in California. You get this whole earth that I could be anywhere on at this moment in time. But what led me to this right here? And then my brain just started flooding in with every decision I have made, every person I've surrounded myself with, every fishing trip I took with my dad, everything came pouring back in to the point that now I was not sobbing like tears rolling down my face, but my eyes were super welled up. I was overwhelmed with emotion and kind of taking it all in. And I think that that's what got me right to that place that I went through that journey for probably a good half an hour, 45 minutes of just reliving in very, very, very vivid pictures and video of this life, camping trips, day I was married, kids being born, like all these things, kids' first teeth. Like everything was kind of like running out. And then all of a sudden it was like, and it just like said, and right now you're here. You are right here in this moment, and just take it all in. And for like the next 6 hours, Matt, it was just like absorbing being right now, right in this environment with no thought of the future, no thought of the past, no, where are we going? What are we going to grow into? Which is, this is 6 hours of a space don't think I've ever been in before. I'm a very futuristic thinker. When I've taken, what is it? The Now Discover Your Strengths book, they have the personality stuff in there. And futuristic is one of my top strengths that I have. But I also think it was like nice to be able to shut it off for a little bit and just be like, right, just be here, right now.
And that was something we both had this takeaway, which I think everybody will probably discover when or if they do this, is at some point you just be present. And we talk about presence a lot. We've talked about it on podcast episodes before. Be present with your clients, be present with yourself. I hadn't really experienced, aside from little bouts when you do athletic things like running a marathon or a triathlon or things like that, you do experience that presence because you're just in a pain cave where you're like, okay, well, I just need to take one more step.
Yep.
But this was a different level of presence because there was no goal. There was no like, I need to get here other than I need to get back to my car to get home. Or get back to the front door in your case, but we both experienced this presence. And I was thinking, and I didn't share this on our Zoom with our community, but when I was walking, there was this moment where it was just gorgeous. I was under tree cover on a trail, looking at this little sunlit kind of view through the trees. There was a gator sitting over there just sunning himself. And I was like, what an amazing day. Like how cool is this that I got this beautiful day? God gifted me this day. And I was like, what would it have been like if it was raining or if it wasn't so nice? And I was like, I probably would think the same thing because I've already been doing this for 8 hours. And it got me thinking about how we adapt to things. Over time, we eventually accept our circumstances, right? In many cases. Sometimes we don't, but what if we just did accept everything? We'd have a different level of presence, which would then give us the ability to manage that environment in a way that can get us to where we want to go. And it was really cool to experience that level of presence that if we're conscious about it, I think we can apply to day-to-day operations. When we're in situations, we're letting our emotions kind of take the reins. We slow it down and just say, how do I be really present here and just accept and acknowledge and be thankful for this moment because now I can be clear headed, put a smile on my face, and approach what I need to approach.
As we continue down this path, Matt, I think the biggest takeaway that I had of the entire journey was like at hour 10. I think is where I had like the biggest moment of like, oh my gosh, like overwhelming type of moment. And it was interesting as I described it as when you are ADD, you're hyper focused, and people have always said this. Like the beauty of ADD is you get to hyper focus on stuff, which yeah, you totally can. But a lot of times it's like hyper focused, and the next minute you're jumping over to something else, and you're hyper focused on that, and the next minute you're focused on this over here, and the next minute you're focused on this, and it can be really overwhelming if it's like goes unchecked. But it's kind of going on all the time, and had this moment like at hour 10 where I was like all of a sudden sitting on a bench, and all of a sudden like the camera lens opened up, and the best way I can describe it is like I was given a wide angle lens, and I had, because of this moment of peace and this moment of just in this environment, like I remember sitting there. I actually have a video of it, of me sitting there going, it's all getting in. Like I can see it all. It's all crystal clear, and it's all getting in at exactly the same time. And I can process it all at exactly the same time. Like what an amazing moment this is. And again, hands down, out of the 12 hours of being out, it was probably that one moment that I'll look back on of sitting at the side of that lake, sitting on that bench. It might have been the endorphins kicking in, because like my knees were really hurting, my hip flexors were really hurting, but it was again this crazy sense of clarity that I've told people now when they've asked me about the walk. I say if I can get that level of clarity back, which actually is still with me, I have found my ADD has been super turned down since we've done this event, Matt. And if I can get that level of clarity back, someone said, you asked me, would you do the walk again? And other people have asked me like, is it something you would go do again? I'm like, probably do it monthly if I can get that level of clarity back. And super powerful, super powerful. You had a deer smile at you, man. I mean, you were hallucinating also.
That was early on too. Like I was like, maybe four hours in, and I got deer smiling at me. I got to see some really cool animals: fish jumping, dolphin, gators.
Your picture of the bald eagles sitting on the beach is incredible.
It's cool. 2 bald eagles. I've seen 1 bald eagle before, like just out in nature, and we do have them down here, flying around and stuff. But like 2 just kind of just chilling there side by side was really neat. That was a lot of fun. There were a lot of really great moments on this, man. And I think like you, I would totally do it again. Colin, does it every quarter, makes this time. And I think there's even, I thought about the comfort crisis, and in that book, there's a part where they go through this study on forest bathing and getting time in nature and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, getting 20 minutes a day, getting a few hours a weekend solidly in here, and then getting one full weekend a year. And it's like, yeah, that is something we don't really set ourselves up for. And this is one takeaway I want real estate agents in particular to experience, or anybody who's in sales, or if you're an entrepreneur where you feel like you need to be connected 24/7. And I get it, because I'm the same way. I'm almost always connected until I bought my second phone, so I could be disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And is to give yourself the opportunity to step away, so you can give yourself the space to understand where you want to go. I think that was one thing that we don't give ourselves the opportunity. We get so stuck in doing the business over and over and over again that our mindset doesn't get that opportunity to even slow down, to go wide like you did, and then look at things differently so you can come back and give even better energy to what you're doing. And so I really encourage people to take the opportunity to do this, because it's not a physical challenge. You just unplug for 12 hours, walk slowly, sit on a bench, whatever it is. As Colin says, you can walk 1 mile or 50. It doesn't matter. 50 would be really hard to do, by the way. You got to be moving.
That's a whole different commitment level. and I would say too, Matt, I think in us talking about our journeys and what we did and what we saw, I will say, if you can figure out a way to do this, if you choose to go do the walk, see if you can find a place or a path that will limit your human interaction as much as possible.
Mhm.
Matt went out and did the beach, and in talking a little bit, you had more human interaction than I did on
It was
the.
way busier than not only did the beach get busy, the trail that was near there was always people passing me or me passing people, but it was easy to stay kind of just not, I mean, I didn't talk to anybody. So,
Yeah, I found myself. I kind of look back at my notes to kind of figure out, because I kind of documented along the way, because like it was like 8 hours in, and I was like, I I think I've seen 10 people in 8 hours. And of course, when you pass them on a trail, the nice thing is to be like, good morning or
yeah,
hi.
smile.
But like in that amount of time, that was my entire interaction I had with people. Oh, and Matt, and I didn't share, maybe I did share this with you, but there was a song that was stuck in my head, and it was just playing. So if anybody listens to Ben Folds 5, there's a song called Song for the Dumped. Don't know why that song was in my brain. It was just playing away as I was starting my journey. And I got about 3 hours in, and I was like, time for a new song. Like, I was sitting kind of like taking in a view. I was eating some almonds, drinking some water, kind of keeping myself going. I was like, time for a new song. And all of a sudden, a car passes by and parks down below. I never saw the person, never saw the car. And as they open up the door, the song Southern Cross, which I don't know who sings. I was starting to think about it. I don't know who sings it. My brain's like, was that Leonard Skinner? Was that like, who sings that song? But Southern Cross is playing. And I was like, this is a perfect song. Like, this is a super kind of a lot of spirituality that comes into it and great energy. And I was like, and I've got my new song. But it was funny, is like, I had a little moment of like, did I just create that song to come into my world? Like, I was literally just going, I think I'm done with this song. And all of a sudden that happens. It's the only other song I heard on the whole trip. And I was like, perfect. That's the new one. That's what we're rolling with.
I like that. Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
There.
There
Someone
you
out there's
go.
going to be going, Leonard Skinner, what are you talking about?
No,
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
hey, Southern rockish. Yeah, no, that works.
Dude, great song. But when it was playing, I was like, there, that's the song for a while. Replace the other one. So
Yeah. Man, Garrett, there are so many takeaways that, and we can dive because there's personal takeaways. There was a period where I was also just really productive and just thinking through some things. So I would recommend the things that you recommended, and I also encourage people to bring, if you're going to bring your phone, which you probably should do just in case of emergency.
yep.
Do put it in airplane mode and use just the voice recorder function to just get your thoughts out. I encourage that. Don't wear Converse All Stars like Garrett did. Wear
That's
actual
great. I still got them
run,
on right now, man. I've been great. They're not the
running
best
shoes or
walking
walking
shoes.
shoes.
They're not the best walking shoes. And you know what's interesting too, and what I'm really happy I did, and I didn't think about it up front, but I have a little camera, the DJI Pocket Osmo camera, that I'm really grateful that I have video that I took from my perspective with the camera looking in front of me, not a camera on my face, with me talking into it. And I have found, going back and looking at those videos of those moments, it puts me right back on that trail, having that conversation, having that moment, having that thought. There's a perch that I call it my perch now, and I'm going to go back to this perch many times in the future, I know for sure, because I hit it on the way out, and it's overlooking this huge reservoir. And I sat out there on the side of this cliff, just kind of letting my brain run and taking it all in. And on the way out, Matt, I felt I was still in that kind of creative mode, trying to shut my brain off, and it was running in all these different directions. And I went all the way out, turned around, started walking back, and I found myself going, I can't wait to get back to the perch. I want to go back to this perch. And I kept thinking about, what did the road look like that I turned off of? Because I took all these little trails along the way. And I finally found it. And the cool part about going back is that I was able to sit on this perch again, but now with my brain silent, now just being there. And it was a very different experience. Same place, a couple hours later, very different mindset. And I would say is like, being able to sit there and have the video recording of me looking around over the water and taking it all in, every time I go back and watch it, it snaps me back into that environment. So just want to encourage everybody, if you go do this, document it along the way, but don't document it with things that are going to cause distractions and bring the outside world in. Just document it with things that you can record, put back in your pocket, and move along. Don't overthink it. Don't be thinking about this is going to be an awesome Facebook post. Oh, I'm going to share this on Instagram when I get back. Just let it be for you. And I kept having to say that to myself. I'd take a recording and be like, Garrett, this is for you right now. Here's what I need you to hear.
Yeah.
And I would just start talking. So that was my
take. Don't work during this. It's going to be a great post. Don't worry about that. You're going to have an experience that's going to give you something to talk to people about. Don't worry about it. That will deliver. Just go and enjoy it. And I encourage people to go after it. And if you do, let us know. If you do, or you have done the 12-hour walk or something similar. Someone told me the other day, or actually told me today, Jordan Malik, who also did the 12-hour walk, he told me that he knows somebody who would do 10-day of silence, that's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot that can go on mentally through a 10-day session, just like our 12-hour, which is even just a half a day. But we'd love to hear your experience with it. Either comment on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, shoot us a note, or if you're a part of our community, come tell us there, which we've opened up kind of new sections. We've restructured the community a bit, Garrett. We now have kind of our membership portion of Life at 10 Tenths, which includes kind of some mindset stuff, and a place for people to connect and discuss different things. Also, we share our book insights, which this was a part of.
Yep.
A part of that. And then we have our coaching program, which is the 11 Circle, where we do live coaching every single week and get to talk through scenarios with people that are business related, and also things that can come out from this, because a lot of coaching, as we've discovered over the years, Garrett, is about limiting beliefs and mindset and helping people work through those things so they can accomplish wonderful things. And that's a big reason why we wanted to do this 12-hour walk, to see like, hey, what does this do? What do we experience? So we can encourage other people, hey, this is a great tool you can use to work through some of these things. So we'd love to see you either in our membership or in our coaching program, or just in the comments, or wherever you can find us. Come connect with us on Instagram. It's a wonderful thing. We love connecting with you guys and sharing and growing with you all. So Garrett, man, thank you for taking on this journey. I knew I had suggested this book, and then I was like, so we're going to do the 12-hour walk. And you're like, okay. Really excited that you said yes and that we did it on the same day.
Well, and again, I think it's one of those things I will do again. I know for a fact I'm going to go do this again. I've actually been trying to figure out, Matt, if I can get back to that state in 6 hours. And, if I went into it with the right mindset and just saying, look, I can, I don't need to leave from the house. I can drive out, get myself out in the middle of nowhere. And then, what if I had 6 hours? And so I'm very open to experimenting with this mindset. I know we're wrapping this up, but I even had a thought of, my mother and father-in-law have 116 acres here outside of town. And I was like, what if I never left the property? What if I actually just coordinated that thing off into 12 sections and just was like, moving on to the next section, the next hour, and just have an hour just in that section, taking in what that section is and opening my mind up to all the things that are there. And then, next hour, moving on to the next section. I was like, you don't need to make this a 20-mile walk out into the wilderness. The whole thing is getting yourself into a great space, clearing your mind. And so I encourage everybody, if you can find the ability to say yes to this and lean into it. I want to know what your stories are. And if you hear that little voice coming up that's saying, yeah, I can't do that, and all the limiting beliefs, just ask yourself, is that real? Or am I just trying to protect myself? So, all right, guys.
I love that. That's perfect. Well, thank you, Garrett. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. And we'll see you on the next episode, guys. Have a great day. Good luck to you. Get out there and break through any barriers that you might be experiencing today. And if you need some support with that, just hit us up. We're happy to help.
Have an amazing one, guys.